Bonjour, right? So here is our second lesson in our video series about talking about school subjects. So if you're working on in your book again, or on paper, or on Word document, whatever it is, put chez moi at home, whatever today's date is. You can add in le 6 or whatever the date is, and then our title is au collège. So collège is the word of comprehensive school in French. So by the end of today's lesson, you need to understand some reasons why some people like or don't like a subject, and then use those reasons to say why you like or love or hate particular subjects. We're building on our simple sentences last week of I like English or I hate maths. So once you've written those three things down, unpause and move on. So let's just recap a few subjects first of all. Call out the English for these. Histoire, yep, it's history. Le dessin, that one is art. L'informatique, that one's ICT. L'allemand, bit tricky because we don't learn that here in Bont. That one is German. I wonder how many of you remembered that one. L'anglais, that one is English. Do you remember this? Le théâtre is drama. What is the French then for geography? Can you say that out loud? So hopefully it sounded something like la géographie. PE. Now you can just say le sport, or le PS is the other one. Maths. So the spelling is the same, but it's pronounced les maths. And finally, TT is la technologie. Okay, let's see those in some sentences now. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video and write down the opposite language for each of these sentences, as many as you can do. So we should all be able to write down the English for j'aime beaucoup les maths, and hopefully the French for I don't like Welsh. You can go back to your work from last lesson, or even the Moodle lesson last week, and recap the spelling of anything you don't remember. You don't need to write what's on the screen. You just need to write out or type out the opposite language. So what is j'aime beaucoup les maths in English? What is I don't like Welsh in French? If you've had a go at the green, then try the yellow. J'adore l'espagnol, mais je déteste l'anglais. What is that in English? And what is in French? I like history and I also like RE, or I like also RE is how they would say it in French. If you've tried the yellows, then have a go at the reds, a bit more tricky. What is in English? J'aime la musique, mais je n'aime pas l'informatique. And finally, this long one, we've added in some reasons here, but they're reasons that look a bit like the English. So see if you can work out the English for j'aime beaucoup les sciences parce que c'est amusant. Cependant, j'adore la technologie parce que c'est intéressant. Okay, so pause the video and take as long as you need to write out or type out the opposite language to what is on the screen. Okay, if you've unpaused, it means you have now had a go at as many of those as you can. So now in a different colour, I want you to correct what you've written, or like you did last week, you can copy and paste in a green tick from Google, or you can just put a green dash or something, and then in a different colour correct the ones you did not get right. So this first one means I really like maths, or I like maths a lot. Either of those is fine, or I might like maths lots. Je n'aime pas le gallois. So if you did not spell this part correctly, that's probably what's caused the most issue. Je n'aime pas. Then correct that. And then le gallois has a double L, and that's how we make that wa sound. I love Spanish, but I hate English. Don't forget, we need capital letters in English on languages, so make sure you have those. J'aime l'histoire et j'aime la religion aussi. Or you can also put the aussi here. J'aime aussi la religion. Okay. I like music, but I don't like ICT. There was a reason there, but we took off the reason, so ignore that. And then I really like science because it's fun. However, I love technology because it's interesting. Or I love DT. So I wonder how much of that you were able to work out, because that's what we're going to be working on today. So when we want to say because something is something, we say parce que c'est. So parce que is the link word we're going to be using, and lots of our reasons will start with c'est. This is the French. These are the reasons we're going to be using. So quite a few here start with c'est, it is. Then we have a couple that start with le prof. So think about who the prof might be. Then we have a few there's one here that's nous avons, and another that's c'est, but instead of just one adjective when describing word, we have a phrase. This is the English all muddled up. So c'est amusant does not mean we have too much homework. What you're going to do is to write out the French or type out the French and then see how much of the English you think you can match up. We've already worked out that 5 of them start with it is plus a single word, and there's a few like that there. It's fun, it's difficult, it's easy, it's boring, it's interesting. So see how many of those you can do. Then we have 2 that start with le prof, the something, and I can see here that there are 2 that are the teacher. So is must mean est. Then we have nous avons beaucoup de devoirs, so one that doesn't look like the rest, and another that has it is, c'est, followed by a longer phrase. So hopefully you can work out lots of those. You're going to write out or copy and paste the French and then put the English next to it, okay? So pause the video and take as long as you need. Don't forget your accents, intéressant, and don't forget to write the subtitle here, parce que c'est, because it is. Off you go. So if you've unpaused, it means you have written out all of the French and you've matched up as many of the English as you can. So let's check those and check our pronunciation. So we've got c'est amusant, means it's fun. Now this is normally pronounced c'est, because the T is on the end, so it's silent. S is on the end, therefore left on the end, which is silent, so we just got c'est. But because the next word starts with a vowel, we do pronounce this T. So c'est amusant. Repeat after me. C'est amusant. Then we have it's interesting. C'est intéressant. And again, c'est intéressant. Whenever you have an accent going up on a word like this, on a letter, like that, it makes an A sound, which sounds different to the E here. Intéressant. It's boring. C'est, again, and now this is a tricky word to say. On, oui, eux. That's the same spelling as the word number 2, un, deux. So it gives us that same E sound. C'est ennuyeux. Let's try that one again. Ennuyeux. If you're not repeating these after me, remember they're not going to stick in your head as well. And also you might end up learning the wrong pronunciation. And we're continuing with these when we get back to school. So I hope you are repeating so that you'll find the lessons in school easier. Okay. Let's try it's easy. C'est facile. C'est facile. It's difficult. C'est difficile. C'est difficile. Then we have the 2 that start with the teacher is. Le prof est. Let's try that. Le prof est. This is sympa. We did that back in year 7. You might remember sort of this time last year in year 7. Le prof est sympa. Le prof est trop sévère. Le prof est, repeat that. Le prof est trop, because the P is on the end, it's silent, as we'll see here. Most consonants, most non-vowels are silent on the end of words in French. Trop sévère. So the accent going up makes it this one an A sound. The accent coming down makes this an air sound. That's why the accents are important. They tell us how to say the word. So let's try this all together. Le prof est trop sévère. Le prof est trop sévère. Then we have too much homework. So nous avons beaucoup de devoirs. There's that wa sound again we saw in history. Devoir. Nous avons beaucoup de devoirs. And all together, nous avons beaucoup de devoirs. Finally, it's my favourite subject. We're using c'est again. It is. Ma, the feminine word for my, because matière is a feminine word, it ends in E. C'est ma matière. C'est ma matière. Now look, we've got all the accents going up here. So remember that makes that A sound. So préféré, préféré. All together. C'est ma matière préférée. Okay, so if you want to rewind to repeat any of those, you can. But we should by now have the French and the English written out correctly and have practiced saying them a little bit. So starting to get familiar with them. So we can now put these with our opinions. So last lesson we were looking at, we get a different opinion, I like or I love and so on. We simply add the subject straight after. We don't take away that word the. Now we put parce que, because, and whatever our reason is. So if we go back to the slide previously, if I wanted to say I like geography because it's fun, j'aime la géographie parce que, because c'est amusant. I like geography because the teacher is nice. J'aime la géographie parce que, because le prof est sympa. There's only one little rule we have to bear in mind here. So if you remember, we grouped all our subjects last lesson. And do you remember that some of the subjects are feminine, as in the spelling of them is feminine, if they end in E or I-O-N? And we learnt back in year 7 that our adjective always has to match. Our describing word must match this thing it's describing. So we learned how to say things like a blue pencil case, and because pencil case is feminine, we had to make the spelling for blue feminine. And it's the same here with subjects. So I like Welsh because it's interesting would be j'aime le gallois parce que c'est intéressant. But if I want to put I like a feminine subject because it's interesting, like technologie, j'aime la technologie ends in an E, so I know it's feminine la, parce que c'est intéressant. I have to add an E now, which makes it match the spelling here, and it matches the gender. So we don't have an E on the end of here, therefore it's pronounced intéressant, because the T is on the end, so it's silent. But now the T is no longer on the end, the feminine pronunciation is intéressant. We do say the T. Let's look at another example. If I say I hate Welsh because it's boring, je déteste le gallois parce que c'est ennuyeux. But about a feminine subject, I'm going to need to add an E to that word ennuyeux. But it's one of these funny ones. If you remember from lazy that we learnt last year, paresseux, we also had to change the X into an S. So we're going to say je déteste la technologie parce que c'est ennuyeuse. Change that S, okay? We'll see some examples in the next few activities we're going to look at before we try it ourselves. Okay, so looking at these reading sentences here. So we've got seven different sentences about people's opinions on their subjects. But they don't all make sense. You need to read each sentence and decide whether or not it makes sense. So look at your list of reasons, look at your list of opinions from last lesson if you need them, and you're going to write sans if it thinks it makes sense, and non sans if it doesn't make sense. Looks a bit like nonsense, doesn't it? So let's look at number 1 together. Je n'aime pas la musique parce que c'est intéressant. So we've got I don't like music. Don't like it because it's interesting. Well, that doesn't make sense, does it? Because if you found something interesting, you would like it. So we would write for number 1, non sans. Okay? If you would like as well, if you want an extra challenge, you can correct the ones that don't make sense so that they make sense. So next to number 1, I could have also written j'aime la musique parce que c'est intéressant. I like music because it's interesting. Okay? Okay, so pause the video and you just simply need to write out reading 1 to 7 and sans or non sans depending on whether or not the reason matches whether or not they like it or not. So off you go. Okay, so if you've unpaused, it means you've got an answer for each one of these and you've worked out if they make sense or not. So let's look at number 2. J'adore le sport parce que c'est amusant. So I love PE because it's fun. Well, that makes sense, so we write sans. Mark these in a different colour. J'aime le français parce que le prof est sympa. So I like French because the teacher is nice. That makes sense. Number 4, je déteste les maths. So I hate maths, so I'm therefore expecting now to see a negative opinion. Parce que c'est ma matière préférée. It's my preferred, my favourite subject. Well, that doesn't make sense. If it's your favourite subject, you wouldn't hate it. Number 5, j'aime la technologie. I like DT parce que c'est ennuyeux. So looking back at your list of reasons, ennuyeux means boring. So I like DT because it's boring. Doesn't make sense. J'adore l'anglais parce que nous avons beaucoup de devoirs et c'est difficile. I love English because we have lots of homework and it's difficult. Doesn't make sense. Finally, j'aime l'histoire parce que le prof est trop sévère. I like the history because the teacher is too strict. Well, again, that does not make sense. Okay, so make sure you've corrected these. And if you had a go at correcting the non-sans ones, then just make sure you've changed either the reason, so I like history because the teacher is nice, or you've changed the opinion, I don't like history because the teacher's too strict. So we've had a go at reading some sentences, we've said some vocabulary. Now we're going to listen and see what we can understand. So for each of the people here, Roland, Leila and so on, we are going to hear them being asked the question, tu aimes les maths? Do you like maths? So what you need to do is you are going to put the reason about whether or not they like maths. If you can also put the opinion, then great. But some of these are quite tricky, so you might find it easier to just focus on one thing sometimes. So maybe you just get the reason in number 1, and in number 2 you just get the opinion, love or hate, and so on. Try to focus on the reasons because they are our new vocabulary today, but do the best that you can. Like our listening from last lesson, I will play each one twice, then I'll say it slower, and you can go back and rewind to replay any that you need to hear again. So the 9 reasons they might possibly use are here: fun, interesting, boring, and so on. All you need to do is you write out number 1. We've done it so far. We know number 1, whoever's talking likes maths because it's interesting. You just need to put number 2, and you put love, hate, and so on, and the reason. Okay, so write écoutez and 1 to 9, please. And then when you can unpause and make a start. Okay, so we've heard number 1. We already know number 1, they like it because it's interesting, so let's check that.
Tu aimes les maths?
Oui, j'aime les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que c'est intéressant.
So she asks, tu aimes les maths? Do you like maths? He says, oui, j'aime les maths. And then she asks, pourquoi? Why? Pourquoi? The person replies, parce que c'est intéressant. Okay, number 2.
Tu aimes les maths?
Non, je n'aime pas ça.
Pourquoi?
Parce que le prof est trop sévère.
And again.
Tu aimes les maths?
Non, je n'aime pas ça.
Pourquoi?
Parce que le prof est trop sévère.
Okay, so she asks, tu aimes les maths? And he says, non, je n'aime pas ça. Pourquoi? Le prof est trop sévère is the reason. Le prof est trop sévère. So write the reason in English as well as the opinion if you can. So when you're ready, go on to number 3 or pause or rewind if you need to. Numéro 3.
Tu aimes les maths?
Oui, j'aime ça.
Pourquoi?
Parce que c'est facile.
Tu aimes les maths?
Oui, j'aime ça.
Pourquoi?
Parce que c'est facile.
And slower, tu aimes les maths? The answer is oui, j'aime ça. Pourquoi? The answer, parce que c'est facile. C'est facile is your reason. When you're ready, number 4.
Tu aimes les maths?
Non, je déteste les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que c'est difficile.
And again.
Tu aimes les maths?
Non, je déteste les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que c'est difficile.
And slower, so tu aimes les maths? Non, je déteste les maths. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est difficile. Ok, numéro 5.
Tu aimes les maths?
Non, je n'aime pas les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que nous avons beaucoup de devoirs.
Tu aimes les maths?
Non, je n'aime pas les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que nous avons beaucoup de devoirs.
So, tu aimes les maths? Non, je n'aime pas les maths. Pourquoi? Parce que nous avons beaucoup de devoirs. Ok, numéro 6.
Tu aimes les maths? Non, je déteste ça. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est ennuyeux.
So his reason is quite fast there. Play it again and say it slower.
Tu aimes les maths? Non, je déteste ça. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est ennuyeux.
He asks, tu aimes les maths? Non, je déteste ça. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est ennuyeux. Okay, number 7. 7.
Tu aimes les maths?
Ah oui, j'adore les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que le prof est sympa.
And again.
Tu aimes les maths?
Ah oui, j'adore les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que le prof est sympa.
So, tu aimes les maths? Oui, j'adore les maths. Pourquoi? Parce que le prof est sympa. If you've got all of these so far, there's hopefully just 2 reasons left that you haven't used out of these. So number 8 now.
Tu aimes les maths?
Oh oui, j'aime les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que c'est amusant.
And again.
Tu aimes les maths?
Oh oui, j'aime les maths.
Pourquoi?
Parce que c'est amusant.
So, tu aimes les maths? Oui, j'aime les maths. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est amusant. And finally, numéro 9, number 9.
Tu aimes les maths?
Les maths? J'adore ça,
Pourquoi?
parce que c'est ma matière préférée.
So quite a fast one there, I'll play it again.
Tu aimes les maths?
Les maths? J'adore ça,
Pourquoi?
parce que c'est ma matière préférée.
So tu aimes les maths? She answers les maths, j'adore ça. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est ma matière préférée. Okay, if you need to hear any again, go back and repeat them, rewind the video, take as many pauses as you need to. Then when you're ready, replay from here so we can check your answers. Okay, so numéro 2 doesn't like maths. They think the teacher is strict. So 1 mark for the opinion, 1 mark for the reason, mark in a different colour. 3, they like it, it's easy. 4, they hate it, it's difficult. 5, they don't like it, too much homework. 6, they hate it, it's boring. 7, they love it, they think the teacher is nice. 8, they love it because it's fun. And 9, they love it because it's their favourite subject. Okay, so mark those, and then when you're ready, we can continue. Sorry, you're right. For number 8, it should be like, not love. Okay. Finally now then, we're going to do our last skill, which is writing. So you wrote some sentences last lesson. You wrote 20 plus words on what you liked and disliked. Now what you're going to do is rewrite that paragraph, but now use the information we have from today. In other words, the reasons, okay? You can also use some phrases like this, I think that, I believe that, however, to make your writing more interesting. So in other words, you're writing a mini paragraph about the subjects you like and don't like, but this time you add reasons why. So it might start off with something like, I like English, j'aime l'anglais, because it's interesting, parce que c'est intéressant. However, cependant, I hate drama because it's boring. Je déteste le théâtre parce que c'est ennuyeux. Okay? Don't forget to make your opinion match the reason match, whether it's if it's feminine. try and use as many of these phrases as you can. So on the one hand, I like PE because it's fun, but on the other hand, the teacher is too strict. Make some comparisons. So if last week you had 20 words, this week really by adding in some reasons, we could be doubling that, okay? So pause the video and take as long as you need to type that out or write it. Please do not put it straight into Google Translate. We will be able to tell straight away. Use what you've got from this lesson and last lesson. You don't need anything from Google. Okay. Okay then, so in today's lesson we needed to understand reasons why people might like or don't like a subject. So hopefully you were able to recognise most of the nonsense or the ones that make sense, sentences, and you recognise lots of the reasons from the listening. If you've then also been able to write a mini paragraph, you've done objective 2, which is add on reasons why. So let's just recap a little. I'd like you to pick 3 of these bubbles and write them out in your notes. So 3 things I learned today are, and explain 3 things you learn in English. I learned because, I learned it's fun, whatever it is. Can you give me 3 opinions in French? Can you give the English for these? Can you fill in this in French, complete it in French, or tell me something you now know? So pick 3 bubbles and complete them to finish off your work. Once you've then finished, you need to submit your work, whether it is photos of your work via your phone and go into Moodle on your phone, or email them to yourself to then download and submit, or you can just simply make sure you save your work before you upload it to add submission. If you don't know where the add submission button is or how to use it, then have a look at last lesson's video, the subjects video. At the very end I explain how to use add submission. Well done, Yuri, très bien, and hopefully we'll see you in school soon, if not see you at the next online lesson.